Test. And before we convene the meeting, let me just welcome you all. It's a great gathering of great Americans here to support our county. What I wanted to do is make sure you know that we have a bit of a complication tonight, not anything out of the ordinary, but just it may be unusual for some of you who have not done that. We have 4 different opportunities to sign up tonight. One is for public comments like we normally do, and the other 3 are for public hearings. As a part of our protocol for transparency and public exchange, when we get to important matters, we have a public hearing on topics. Those 3 topics tonight is a multi-county business park. Secondly, the millage, which is going to be reduced, a millage discussion. And thirdly, a redistricting plan. We want to hear from the public before we move to votes. On either side of you are charts that we've had up for about a month and have been in here for the public to see. And those are the redistricting plan of the county government, not of the state government, not your state representative or your state senator. So we want to hear from you, the public, as a part of a public hearing. And what I want to make sure that those of you wishing to talk in any one of those 4 or all 4 have had a chance to sign up. Mr. DeBose, how does it look from, if you would just take a look? And there is anybody that wished to speak tonight on those topics that's here that did not sign up? Mr. Bose, it looks like we're in good shape.
No one signed up for the public hearing, Mr. Chairman. No one's indicated they want to sign up. And the public comments, Tom Webb III has signed up.
So there's nobody to sign up for redistricting. Is that correct? Correct. There was a couple of bright young ladies in here about 3:30, and I chatted with them. I thought they were going to sign up. Nobody here to sign up for the multi-county, and nobody here to sign up for the millage.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, then let's proceed, and I'll hit this little gavel here, and we'll go down the list, all right? We have a quorum. All members are present. It's a great day in Kershaw County. We've just had a clean community out. We've had baseball, football, wrestling teams out cleaning up with homeowners associations cleaning up all over the county. We have a ribbon cutting tomorrow for the county bus service. We've just finished the property sales run by our treasurer. Got a land jam this weekend. We got a Rev War reenactment this weekend. We got a half marathon. And if you don't think you've got enough to do, then you're probably not paying attention. And then we also should congratulate those winners in Elgin and Bethune, who won the recent election. I'm glad to see you here, Mayor, tonight. I want to recognize that I think A.D. Jordan is here. Are you here, sir? And if any of you want to talk to Mr. Senator Tim Scott's personal representative, Mr. Jordan will certainly like to see you here or outside or after. So, Mr. Jordan, thank you for coming. We appreciate our elected representatives in Washington being present. Thank you very much. We have a very interesting agenda, and with that, we are called to order. I would ask you to stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll lead the invocation tonight. And as it says in the good book, blessed is that nation whose God is the Lord. And we, as your servants, Lord, stand before you tonight and asking your guidance and wisdom and sense of fairness and kindness, so that justice and mercy may rule in our land, and that we may use these precious resources given to us by the people of Kershaw County and by your hand itself. And to your honor and glory, all this we ask in Jesus' name. And let all the people say, Amen. Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we have the agenda on the board, and normally we do public comments, but we have people here that have traveled far and have other business, and we want them to have the opportunity to move ahead, and they've done great things for our county. So as the chairman, I'm going to take my prerogative to reorder things. And what I would like first to do is to read the proclamation for the Mr. Elias Altieri. I'm going to need some help from one of you. I didn't bring my notepad with me. Mary, do you have a printout of the proclamation? Yeah, let me borrow yours. I'll just use Mary's. Thank you. My fault, Mary. Thank you. The way we do things here for the Boy Scouts present is we take a motion, we get a second, we have discussion, sometimes short, sometimes long, and then we vote on it. And then if we decide you're worthy, we ask you to come up and get your photograph taken. So with that, can we have a motion, perhaps Mr. Snodgrass, for this proclamation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that we read and adopt this proclamation honoring Mr. Altieri and his efforts.
All right, can we have a second? Second. Now with that, I'm going to read the proclamation, and then we'll have a discussion, all right? A proclamation honoring Scout Elias Altieri. Whereas Kershaw County lives the vision of Vision 2030 to be a great place for families and for parents to raise the world's best kids. And whereas Elias Altieri is the son of James and Nicole Altieri and a junior at Camden High School, he is a member of Boy Scout Troop 777. Why does that name keep coming up, huh? Whereas Elias painted the McDonnell F4C static display located at Woodward Field in Kershaw County for his Eagle Scout project. Eagle Scout is the highest achievement or rank attainable in the Scouts BSA. Requirements include earning at least 21 merit badges. This includes an extensive service project that the Scout plans, organizes, leads, and manages. And whereas per the agreement between Kershaw County and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, museum, the aircraft located at Woodward Field must be maintained in appearance. When the aircraft was in need of repainting, quotes were received between $12,000 and $16,000. However, Elias offered to take on the task as his Eagle Scout project, and with the help of his family and friends, he was able to get the job done for under $4,000. Wow. Along with painting the aircraft, Elias has landscaped the area around and under the plane, and as well as replacing the sign containing the aircraft's information. And whereas this aircraft served as a trainer in the Air Force from November 1964 to December 1988 before being retired to the museum status. Now, therefore, Kershaw County Council recognizes Scout Elias Altieri for his outstanding contributions to his community, and the council wishes him continued success in scouting and in his future endeavors. With that, are we ready to discuss?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say, Elias, thank you so much for being an outstanding young man. I know that you are an example to your peers and a leader among your peers. And I know, I told him earlier, I said, I know you got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as do, I'm sure, your parents into this project. And thank you so much, young man. It looks great. I'm out there a lot, and it's phenomenal. Love how you guys were able to locate the decals, and it really helps give our airport just that added touch to. Really, people don't realize our airport is busier than you think it is. I live out there, so I see a number of our corporate partners that fly in and out of there a lot, using kind of our gateway to the county, as they say. So this only enhances the great property out there. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Connell.
Not only do Boy Scouts tend to build up the projects in the community, but they build themselves up. People have no idea what it takes to do 21 merit badges. That's years worth of commitment. And sometimes I think of it like sports, having been a scout myself. Your parents have to shuttle you around and get you everywhere. You have to attend public meetings for your citizenship merit badges. Sometimes you have the fun ones, like if they still have archery or shotgun clays, that kind of stuff. But really proud of you. very, very glad that you did this, and we're glad to have another Eagle Scout amongst our ranks.
Thank you. Other comments? Yeah, Mr. Gardner.
Just, congratulations. I mean, that's quite an effort, and, you know, it's a lot of work, and we appreciate that. And, you know, we may have some other painting projects for you later on. Hang around.
We'll give you a chance to speak in a minute, all right? And we'll certainly invite you up, sir. Thank you very much.
I would just like to say
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
And we're very proud of you, and I'm very proud to be a part of this tonight. Thank you.
Other comments? I'll say that our airport is like our front porch. It's where CEOs come in. It's where I first greeted and first met the governor back when I first came as chairman. It's a lasting impression, and it's a bad one if that airplane or whatever we have in that airport is not sending the best signal. And thanks to the scouting program, we now have not only a bargain, but we have a better entree. I had lunch today with an F-4C pilot who was shot down in 1964 and could very well have been trained in that airplane. Spent 9 years in POW camp. I was sitting there with the lieutenant governor and Mr. Al Wilson, and they all asked me to tell you thank you, because 9 years in a POW camp or getting shot down is not fun. And this guy is a real hero, and heroes rode in that airplane, and it just gives me a sense of thrill as a veteran myself to know that our scouting program still produces great patriots like you, sir. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Yeah, that's the talk part, and now we get to vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous. And sir, thank you very much. Could you ask, before we ask you to speak, and the young man back there, we'd ask you to come up and get a picture taken. Would you mind? Come on up and bring your scouts and your family with you. Oh, up on the screen is a picture of that F-4 Phantom. People call it an I-beam with a jet engine attached. And it is incapable of flying except for the fact that this particular POW said it's got one of those powerful engines in the world and it would make a brick fly. But that one looks like it's ready to go. Hey, would you just tell us what you did up there, young fellow?
So I can talk to you guys. So that's not even on. Well, is it? Okay. Sick. Well, well, yeah, that's true. So basically, this is the before picture. Whenever we actually started, you guys can see it. Yeah. So basically, that was before we sanded. That was the first picture we got of it. So basically, prior, the only thing that was painted recently was the tail. So it looks slightly better, and that was actually done by my shop teacher at Willard Technology Center. So basically, he helped me along with that, just to get paint and all that. But yeah, that's basically the first one. So if you want to go to the next one. And there's the after.
Yeah, look at that. Would you tell us what you and Danny Templer did with the Air Force? Would you get closer to the mic so everybody can hear it?
Yeah. Can you repeat that again?
Tell me about the markings on the aircraft and all that.
I wish I knew.
Yeah.
I really wish I knew. Oh, really?
You worked with the Air Force. We had an Air Force sergeant from Shaw Air Force Base. Give us a little a hint or two of what we should or should not do, okay? All right. And there was somebody in the back that wanted to speak too. You want to come on up, sir?
This is Gary Philpott. I am Vice Chairman of the Airport Commission. And not only did he come out and work on this in some bad weather and some good weather, you had friends that helped you too. Tell us a little bit about who helped you and the signage.
Well, the signage was done by Signs Unlimited, which is just a company kind of down the interstate. Don't know exactly which road, but you can see it on the side passing, and they actually donated that sign. And, you know, pretty much. And we had some members of the troop who helped out, but it was mainly me, my family, and some family friends, including Mr. Norman, who's my scoutmaster.
And the hardest part was just stripping it. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
The painting was fun.
Painting was fun.
But he also not only did this work, he also for almost, 8 months came to every commission meeting at the airport.
Oh, really?
And gave us an update. This man knows how to do the hard things and to complete them on time and under budget, and we're looking forward to him serving on this committee in the future.
Okay, introduce who came here today, and get on the microphone if you would, and tell us who supported you, and we want to make sure they are recognized too. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we have Mr. Norman, who's my scoutmaster. Good
Yeah.
evening. We have James Altieri, who's my father. We have Nicole Altieri, who's my mother. And we have Josiah Altieri, who's my brother.
Yeah, congratulations. Round of applause, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for coming. It's an honor to have you in this county, and it really gives us hope for the future. Thank you so much. Thank you. Scoutmaster, when's the prospective date of the Eagle ceremony?
We're looking at December 18th, I believe is what we're talking about. We're just waiting on National to get all the paperwork back to us.
Yeah.
But, you know, the biggest thing is a lot of people want to understand.
Please talk to the microphone, too. You got about 600 people watching you right now.
I'm sorry, can y'all hear me? No. So, you know, I'm very proud of Elias. This is, I'll be honest with you, the largest project that Troop 777 has ever done. I mean, it's pretty impressive. We've done projects with the National Wild Turkey Federation, the Camden Battlefield, the churches, and other smaller projects. But this one here is one that'd be hard for anyone ever to top ever again. But it's really an impressive project. But the biggest thing is, you know, a lot of people sometimes don't utilize the scouts like there should be. They are a tool and an asset to the community, and they need to be used that way. So if you find your local units, see what they can do for you. You know, there's boys out there, you know, as you can tell, no project is too small. And I think it's important that people use the scouts as a tool, you know, because that's what they're here for. You know, making better citizens. You know, hopefully one day they'll be our politicians, you know. But thank y'all so much. And Mr. Burns, anything else?
Well, 777 really does outdo themselves. I look forward to seeing you on the 18th. We may have to rent out Zemp Stadium for this event.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Nothing is better than seeing a proud mama. Thank y'all.
Oh, gosh. Well, come on up to the mic. We want to hear from Mom. Thank you, Jimmy.
We'll give you the synopsis. So they power washed it first, and so that took a bit of time, not as bad. The sanding, that was a lot of arm work, And that was what? That was the pits. Yeah, the sanding wasn't as much fun. Everybody came home kind of covered. So then we were able to get the automotive paint from Napa Auto Supply and start that process. And one of the things I wanted to mention was when it came to the signage, we were coming, not the sign for the plane, but the actual decals for the plane, we were coming across some issues. I reached out to Shaw Air Force Base, left multiple messages, emails, never heard a reply back. And I put out the SOS on Facebook, thank goodness for Facebook. And Ruth Torsia actually sent me an email and says, I have a contact you might want. And I want to just give a shout out for Andy Bishop. He works with Pro Colors, and this is what he does now as a retired man, goes out and does this as a living and travels all over the United States. And so he, free of charge, sent us every one of those custom stencils for that plane. Including all the ejection seats, danger signs, everything. And a shout out to my husband, who meticulously and painstakingly did every single one of those stencils, and many of which were multi-layered stencils. And so thank goodness for his attention to detail on that. And a shout out to our son Josiah. His sister's away at college, and she helped every time she was home. We recruited her. Shout out to Josiah for doing a lot of the high detail work, especially the yellow striping on that scaffolding way up there. So it turned out really well, and we're really quite proud of it. And to see the before and after is just is a wonderful thing. I'm proud of this kid.
All right. Thank you, sir, and thank you. Get back to your studies, right? And thanks to the Airport Commission. That's a big deal for us. As I said, it's the gateway to our county. It's our front porch, and we have an industrial site there. When the North Central moves back to its high school, hopefully we can turn ATEC back into an industrial site as we had plans for before the tornado interrupted our plan to do that. Thanks to the Airport Commission, sir. Thank you. And thank you, Elijah. Thank you. Good night. Wow. With that, we'll also have a prerogative to move forward. One other very particular group, and they expect me to say this. It's a great day in Kershaw County. It's an all-American county, right, Laurie Carpenter? All right, thank you very much for being here. We still believe in that spirit, and I think tonight we're going to see it realized in a new way. Again, the item on the agenda here is a resolution by Kershaw County Council authorizing the acceptance of a deed from a place of learning for active youth in Kershaw County of 2.5 acres consisting of a dog park and acceptance of a vehicular parking easement and authorization of execution of a joint use agreement. That could only have been written by a lawyer. But under our rules, I got to do all this. I'm going to read the resolution, and then we'll take a motion. I got a feeling it will be from Ben Connell. Let's see. A resolution by Kershaw County Council authorizing the acceptance of a deed, as already read, whereas the place of learning for active youth, aka the Play Foundation, is conveying 2.5 acres roughly to Kershaw County, consisting of a dog park named the Mason Family Bark Park. Yeah. Whereas Accession LLC is conveying a vehicular park and an access easement for use in conjunction with the Mason Family Bark Park. And whereas Kershaw County is entering into a joint use agreement as to the easement, now therefore be it resolved by Kershaw County Council that acceptable of the duly executed limited warranty deed in substantially the same form as attachment 1 is authorized. Paragraph 2, that acceptance of the vehicular parking easement and joint use agreement as to vehicular parking and access easement in substantially the same form as attachment 2 is authorized. Paragraph 3, that execution of the joint use agreement is authorized. Paragraph 4, that all other acts are authorized for facilitation of acceptance of this deed. and the easement and joint use agreement in paragraph 5, that Kershaw County Dog Park is named the Mason Family Barton Park, and resolved this day. Can we have a motion to approve? Mr. Cornell.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt this resolution, accept the deed, and also the easement.
And can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Mr. Cornell, would you wish to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So from one source of pride and gratitude with the Boy Scouts to another, we have a charitable foundation here, a very generous donor as well. This is something that we've been working on for a number of years. The Mason family and Mr. Mark Mason Sr. is present here tonight, have been very gracious in donating this piece of land, which is not insignificant. It's right off Highway 1, very visible. And they had a vision for a community asset, a recreation asset, another one for you in the quiver, Shane, with a dog park and area for people to take their pets. And it's just a beautiful thing. I think that we were looking at a Recreation Commission recommendation of purchasing land at $250,000 plus or minus, and then the county spending all the funds to purchase the equipment, which is not cheap, and do all the irrigation and everything. But instead of incurring those costs, a donor stepped up in the community to make this happen. You've also got the Play Foundation here, Ms. Emmons, Ms. Frith, Ms. Kate Goff, and Ms. Laurie Carpenter, who have been working on it quite heartily over the years. COVID put a bit of a speed bump in it. But I'm just so thankful because we're here and it's about to happen, and people keep asking, how do I get in? You know, the donation included a fairly high-tech security apparatus where you have to have a card to get in, and we've got to get the system set up with applications and everything. I know you're ready for that too, Shane. So we're just really grateful. We're thankful here in Kershaw County tonight.
Very good. Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful thing. I don't own a dog anymore, but I hear a lot of people talking about a place to go and let their dogs run, and you know, obviously it'll be a social place as well. So thank you to those who contributed and did the work on this. Be a great asset to Kershaw County. Thank you.
Absolutely. Other comments? Mr. Jones.
Just like to say thank you to all those involved in the committee, Mr. Mason, each and every one of you. We have a dog, but I won't be taking my dog to the park because my dog does not like me. My dog belongs to my wife. She will be utilizing the park. Thank you.
Other comments? Shane, you're here. Would it be fair to have maybe Vic or yourself just talk about a timeline and how people can get access? Because I think that'll generate a few questions. You want to come up and spend a minute on that, Shane?
Yeah, so the Play Foundation has done a great job of keeping everything organized and getting us on a good time frame to open this thing up. Next Tuesday, the 16th, we're actually having a ribbon cutting at 10 a.m. that morning. So we'll basically just do that, the ribbon cutting. There will be an agenda where several people will speak. And then on that same weekend, on Saturday, the 20th, we will actually have our grand opening from 10 to 12, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. I myself, possibly a couple of rec staff members, will also be out there with some of the cards for membership. So we'll start taking some memberships then. Actually, once we have our ribbon cutting Tuesday, we can begin taking memberships next week. We're already set up. We have the key fob system ready to go. We have the cards. So we're ready to rock and roll. So Saturday when we have our grand opening, it's just going to be that. It's going to be open and ready to go.
Yeah. Other comments? Is the sheriff going to get one for his canines?
He certainly can. There will be a few things that have to happen. Of course, there's going to be some shot records, but we have all that in a document so everybody knows what's going to be required to get that membership. Each membership will get you 2 dogs per household. So if you have more than 2 dogs, you'll have to get a second membership. Membership for county residents will be $40, and anyone out of the county it will be $50. As been stated before, this property was donated, but at the end of the day, we have to handle the upkeep. So that's why we have to have some type of a membership fee structure.
And I would expect a deliberate review of that fee structure if we could bring it down at some point.
Absolutely.
Based on utilization factors. Other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Shane, you've also done a great job, and I appreciate you structuring it the way you did. Thank you. You and the Play Foundation and the others. Thank you so much.
No problem. Well, we got Lori Carpenter cracking the whip, so she keeps me straight.
It's true, Vic knows.
Other comments?
No comment.
I will say the Play Foundation has been an inspiration to hundreds of us in the county, and All-America County is just one of your many things. The park at KC West, another. And I look out and I see some wonderful, wonderful people as a member of that foundation. But I also see a fellow that doesn't like his name much to be mentioned. He's done remarkable things for our schools, in collaboration with CCTC, and now with the Bark Park, named in their honor. Mr. Mason, you do us a great honor by being here tonight. Thank you, sir. Can we have a round of applause? He's the kind of guy that gives all the glory to God. But, sir, we need to give you our thanks tonight. Shane, anything else?
If I could just mention one more group, and that's the Humane Society, because they're going to have a part in this as well. Mr. Mason has also provided the Bark Park with a strip of pavers. And the idea with the pavers is a citizen can have their dog's name or pet's name etched into one of those pavers. And those funds is actually going to be shared by the Humane Society and the Recreation Department. So it'll be a great funding source for the Humane Society as well.
Thank you. Thank you. That, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimous. And Play Foundation and Mr. Mason, you have our thanks. Thank you very much. And I also thank the council for allowing me to move this up so y'all can go home to supper and don't have to sit here and listen to all our deliberations. All right? Can we have you come up and get a picture? Thank you, Council, for allowing us to move these very quickly through to allow these great Americans to get back to all the wonderful things they do for our county. We move now to public comments. Mr. DeBose, would you please do the honors?
Mr. Chairman, one person signed up, Tom Webb III.
Mr. Webb, thank you for coming. And as you know, our rules of the House is we listen to you, and there are no comments back and forth. Please stay on the subject and not be disrespectful to anybody in the county, either this group or those out in the audience or those listening in. And I appreciate you coming tonight as always, sir. I see your Vietnam hat. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, I'm really glad to see that old aircraft get some tender love.
Bring the mic over, Tom, so we can
Really
hear.
glad to see that old aircraft get some tender love and care out there at the airport. I've seen them in actual operation. We call them Phantoms.
Yep.
And I've seen them take off just before dawn with their afterburners full on to try to get altitude as quick as they could so they don't get small arms fire. Looks like a blowtorch taking off into the sky. And they really are Thunderbirds, incredible piece of equipment. Kind of a shame to see that retired. Well, we are getting close to the real Veterans Day on the 11th. So I've been down on the corner for a little bit, as I tend to do, showing off with a sign. Veterans, our hope, your duty. Trying to encourage some veterans to speak out, come out, and be involved a little bit more. I don't understand it exactly why the public is so quiet about things that bother them, but they don't say anything. I'm the only one signed up to speak today. It's kind of a shame. But I've got a couple of poems that they're timely, they're old poems, so I'll read these. I'm not picking on anyone in particular. Human nature. People fail us. We elect people, they don't do what we think. But then maybe we don't know what we're doing when we elect them. We don't look into things well enough. I can blame people on all levels, myself as well. I've tried to get a little bit more education about what's going on. Just coming here has been good. I've enjoyed knowing all of y'all and talking to you, and it's an enlightenment just to be here and participate a little bit. But here's one of my poems. We're here between Thanksgiving and Halloween, so these are old ones, and they are a little bit political, as you might expect. Where it's always Halloween. What walks the corridors out of sight behind the State House walls? What fright patrols the halls of Congress you all think are y'alls? Some politician zombie head no good at anything he said, while vampire batses drink our taxes to keep us in the red. There's a cog out there behind the screen with spider webs that won't be seen and big black cats and Democrats that are plain enough to see, but those of them on the other side are scarier to me. Rhinos have a mask they wear, and freedom's what they eat, and the game they seem to like to play is voter trick-or-treat. Who are they with no respect that make us want to scream and won't protect our heritage and act so darned obscene? It's the spooky spooks that we elect, where it's always Halloween. And the other one for Thanksgiving, called Thanks Anyway. For the work in the field to harvest the yield, there was meat on the table for the willing and able, and a little cold soup for the rest. And there were thanks for the hen and the pigs in the pen, the mule in the stable, and the silver rule right there in the Bible. This land was blessed back then. And it's my turn now, giving thanks at Thanksgiving, time to reflect on the way we're living. And thanks for old Thanksgiving again, and a little more thanks, just a little, for the trouble we're in. When we're complacent and life is good, it's seldom we question the way we should, as in how much is enough and what is the cost, and where is the truth and why is it lost. And may I be rude, our people are starving for insight and stuffed with food. Our recent plenty of basics and such has altered the mood a little too much, and it keeps on going, till now we can toast to America's ghost with a cup that's overflowing. Though maybe not just yet. There's a challenge where we come to meet to save this land from more defeat by something foul and foreign here inside the border. And liberals too will rue the view of their darling New World Order. Those liberal fellows will issue forth with howls and bellows when the heel of the boot they thought was cute turns to stomp them flat, and we might even shed a tear. Well, maybe not for that. But life and liberty never stay just the way we want them, and no one knows the way this ends. So I'm giving thanks for a part to play, and thanks for all my friends.
Thank you, Mr. Webb, and thank you for your service in Vietnam. Mr. DeBose.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the sign-up list for public comments.
And that concludes public comments. We move now to public hearings. I will read each of these as we go through. Item number 1, a public hearing in regards to an amended and restated ordinance to create a multi-county business park with Lee County. this multi-county business park to be comprised of property located in Lee County and Kershaw County and established pursuant to South Carolina Code of Laws to provide for the expenses of the park, the percentage of revenue application, and the distribution in fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes to the counties and relevant taxing entities, and the distribution of fees in lieu of ad valorem to the counties and relevant taxing entities, and to provide that jobs tax credits allowed by law be provided for industries located in said park, and to permit a user fee in lieu of ad valorem taxation. With that, I'll open the public hearing. Mr. DeVos, has anyone signed up?
Mr. Chairman, no one signed up.
And I'll wait a respectful instant to see if anyone else would come forward. With that, no one came forward. I'm going to close that first public hearing and open the second, which is a public hearing in regards to an ordinance setting the millage rate for Kershaw County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, it says 2021, but I believe it's...
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that's right, that's right,
correct.
2021. Correct. And with that, Mr. DeBose, has anybody signed up?
No one signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, opening the hearing and waiting a moment to see if others come forward. Thank you, Sammy.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
No one comes forward, so I will close that public hearing and move to item number 3, a public hearing in regards to an ordinance adopting a redistricting plan for Kershaw County Council, redefining the 6 single-member county council districts, reapportioned as to population in accordance with the 2020 federal decennial census and applicable laws and requirements. I'll open that hearing. Mr. DeBose, anybody sign up?
Mr. Chairman, no one signed up.
We'll wait a moment again. Sir, do you wish to come up? Please come on up. Hello, sir. Please identify yourself and welcome.
Good evening. My name's Floyd Bracey. I'm a lifelong resident of Kershaw County. Didn't know that this county council was being redistricted, as you stated a little earlier, and it started about a month ago. So I'm personally in objection to what's been planned thus far. So we like to look at the numbers so that we can make a yay or nay as to what decisions are forthcoming.
Very good, sir.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Bracey. It's good to see you again. Thank you. Other comments? Yes, Ms. Hooten, please come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually...
Identify yourself for everybody
yes, sir.
listening, please.
I am Amanda Hooten. I am a resident of Cassett. And I would just like, this is the second reading, excuse me. I was talking to Mr. Snodgrass earlier, and I came in early to look at the maps that were displayed. I actually fall on a cusp on Winchester Road right on the line between 5 and 6, which is Mr. Gardner's district, and Mr. Snodgrass. And it's not I came in to get a more definitive view of what I might look like with my address in the different scenarios. And unfortunately, the maps are not very clear and defined. And I would like to ask that prior to a third reading, well in advance, if we could get a more definitive mapping system so that I could, for example, I'm sure I'm not the only one in the county that is experiencing this. And that's all. Thank you.
And we have your contact information. Mary?
Point of order.
Yeah.
We have the maps, and I thought we were going to have them up, the better ones. But they're there, right? So we're going to put them up after the meeting? Or? Okay.
I thought those were the better maps.
No, these are the maps that were here last meeting.
Okay.
In the
We'll
email
put
I
them up.
sent.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. That one has to stay
Excellent.
changed.
Good point. Excellent.
If
Yeah.
I may.
Yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
I think, was it Mr. Bracey who got up and spoke? Mr. Bracey, Ms. Hooten, I think both of them make some good points, and I'm sure that we'll move forward with this as quick as possible.
those are excellent points. I think there was another hand in the back. We want to make sure we hear from that person as well. Is that it? Okay, we have great comments from Mr. Bracy and Ms. Uden, and we've got, it is complicated, it's difficult. And if we can replace these, I think we'll move on. And there'll be further amendments as we go into a discussion after the public hearing. Is any further? With that, Mr. DeBose, I'm going to close the public hearing, and that was very useful indeed. We move now to the next item. It's on the agenda. The agenda is on page 4 in your electronic books, and it's up on the board. Can we have a motion to approve the adoption of the agenda, please?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? I would only note that for the first time in a very long time, we're not having a briefing on COVID, and we pray the good Lord will allow that plague to subside and we can move ahead with our lives. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Tucker, are you with us? And it's unanimous, and the agenda is approved. And we move now to the approval of minutes. It's on page 4, October 12th, 2021. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second from Mr. Gardner's first. Anybody?
Second.
From Mr. Snodgrass. Any discussion of the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining due to my absence.
Roger? All right. Any further discussion? Can we now vote? All those in favor with Mr. Tucker abstaining signify. And it's unanimous with Mr. Tucker not voting. We move now to the next item on the agenda, which is a public presentation. Item number 1 is the audit presentation. Shaheen, Hadcock, and Godwin, led by the amazing financier, Mr. Mark Wood. Please, our CPA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I've given everybody a copy of the audit report. We're going to go through the one-page summary, if you don't mind. So I'm going to try to be brief. I know y'all have got some other things to discuss tonight.
Can you tell us where that one-page summary is?
It was right on top of the audit report, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started, just wanted to let council know that the county did receive an unmodified opinion again, which is the highest opinion we can give on a set of financial statements. So congratulations for that. Item 1 on the executive summary, it just kind of gives you an outline of the audit report. That's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think we need to go through that. 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to go through the general fund, and then we'll come back to the proprietary funds. The general fund total assets, $33 million. Total liabilities are $18 million. So your fund balance for the general fund is almost $15 million. Number 3 kind of gives you a breakdown of what fund balance looks like between restricted, committed, and unassigned. So your restricted is about $230,000. You've committed about 6.6, and your unassigned fund balance as of 6/30/21 is a little over $8 million. Total revenues for the general fund were a little over $27 million. Expenditures were $24 million. You had some transfers and other financing sources, which was mainly some sale of capital assets. So your change in fund balance as of the end of June 30th was $3.8 million. Proprietary funds, these are the sewer and EMS combined. You can look in your audit report. It should be on page 18 or 19. It'll give you a breakdown between sewer, and there's a column specifically for EMS, so you can see how each of those did, but this is just a combination. Total assets were $30.7 million. Liabilities and deferred inflows were 9.6. So your net position, your equity, was a little over 21 million. Most of that is invested in capital assets, 18 million. Restricted for debt service is 700,000, and your unrestricted net position was about 2.4 million. Combined total revenues were 9.6. Operating expenditures were almost 7.6, and your interest expense on the bonds was little over $100,000. You had some transfers in, so your net change in net position for both the sewer and EMS was $2.3 million. You look at the budget, revenues exceeded the general fund budget by almost 1.6. Expenditures were under budget by 1.5, and your transfers and other financing sources were over budget by 700,000. So that shows you where your positive change in fund balance comes from. Once again, there are no findings with the audit report. I think this audit report is a reflection of the strong financial stability the county's got. It's a good report. The county and council should be very pleased with this report. And your reserves are good, they're strong, but they need to be because, you know, a lot of y'all's unassigned reserves is how y'all pay for some capital projects during the year, so you don't have to go out and borrow money. So you're right in line with about 4 months of reserves on hand, so fund balance wise. Before I take any questions, I just want to thank the finance department, Sandra and her staff. They do a terrific job. Once again, Sandra is the one that wrote the audit report and sent it to me, and I just kind of went through and tweaked some numbers and formatting and that kind of thing. So she's to be commended because I know how hard those reports are to write, and it's a labor-intensive project. Yeah, but it's been a pleasure working with her, and we look forward to our continued relationship with the county. With that, I'll answer if there's any questions.
Well, I hope Sandra is smiling behind that mask.
Yes.
Gentlemen, any questions? Comments, Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Wood, thank you again. Thank you and your firm for always being willing to come in and assist and to guide us and do our audit. But I do want to say a special thank you to the finance department with Ms. Sandra Brown. She's up here late in the evenings and early in the mornings. I catch her in the office a lot when I tip through, thinking I'm here by myself. And she's in there working hard, and her staff. So we're very grateful and appreciative of you, Ms. Brown. And I know this is not a true statement, but I'm going to make it anyway. I hope you continue to be around for a long time.
Other comments?
Question.
Mr. Snodgrass.
So would you say, and it's no secret that the county has leveraged debt in healthy ways in order to obtain capital. So would you say, based on this report, we are, to put it in layman's terms, we are living within our means
Yes.
very, very well?
Very well.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the administration and in particular Ms. Brown. Thank you for doing such a good job. And Mark, thank you for putting this together so that we can understand it. Help me understand the revenues exceeded budget in the tune of 1.6 million. Is that right? 1588?
Yes.
So at this point, do we just add that to our reserves, or?
Yeah, that's why your fund balance for the general fund increased $3.8 million this year. Because revenues exceeded budget, but you also had expenditures that y'all had budgeted for that you ended up not spending. And so with those two components, you were able to increase the fund balance.
So over the course of the year, we increased the fund balance almost $4 million.
Pretty close, yes.
That's quite impressive.
Now, you have committed some of that fund balance for capital projects, and you've also got a budget reserve that council passed a couple years ago that y'all set aside a certain amount that you will not use only under certain circumstances. But when you do, you've got to make sure that there's plans in place to build that back up. So a lot of that, that's why I'm saying some of that is not unassigned. It's in with commitments that council has already done.
So In this report, can you show us where the federal funding lies that we received from the federal government?
All your federal grants are listed on page 92.
And Mr. Brazel, if you are referring to what we call it ARPA funds, we didn't spend any ARPA funds, therefore that's not going to show up because this was the audit through the end of June. So ARPA funds will show up in the current year's budget and next year's audit.
The ARPA funds, Councilman Brazel, are listed as deferred revenue. So it's showing as a liability. Right now, it's revenue that you received in advance, but you haven't spent. So it's sitting on the balance sheet right now. So that's not reflected in any way in the revenue statement.
Okay. Okay, well, good.
Yeah. And I would suggest to all of you that Mr. Wood's always been very helpful with me and he always agrees with a private, I think, class on how he put this all together. And so I'd like to draw on you once again if I
Yeah, that's
get on
fine.
your
And if
schedule.
any council members ever has any questions, please feel free to reach out, call the office, and, I'll be happy to meet with any of you and go through the report, answer whatever questions I might answer to help y'all better understand so y'all can make better decisions for the county.
Absolutely.
Mark, some of the,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
the bond restructuring, that saved us what over the course of the year?
That doesn't happen until the current year, so I don't know how much that's going to save, but I mean, I can look, I've got the documents, I just don't remember off the top of my head. But that didn't happen until the current year, so that'll
So
be
that-
reflected in
That's all
this,
happening currently.
in this current audit. So it won't be reflected as of June 30th.
No,
Because
right.
that all happened after year end.
Looking forward to seeing how that improves things as well. Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter indicated he wanted to say something. Then I'll go to Sammy. Okay, Mr. Carpenter?
Mr. Chairman, since I would just, we tend to kind of lose track a little bit of how much time passes when these come in front of us. This is our COVID year. So this was the budget where we stopped spending. And some of the areas we budgeted conservatively and revenue came in when people started spending in places like that. So it's unusual in that respect that it does reflect what steps we took to deal with COVID. It also does reflect CARES Act money to some degree that we received as reimbursements for expenses. So there are aspects to this, and Mr. Wood, if he sits with you and goes through it, can show you where that shows up. But this budget's a strong budget. I will also, as Ms. Brown has been pointed out, what she does is she saves the county really a significant amount of money and time when she puts together the information into the book. The auditors do the audit. We don't do our own audit. But they audit us, but she does basically a lot of the paperwork that saves us significantly in doing so, helps them out, gets to us quicker. So by her doing that, it's a significant advantage to the citizens of this county.
Sammy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's part of what I was going to say as well, Vic, about the COVID and the stop spending, because we actually just didn't do any increases during that year. We kind of duplicated the budget. But I also want to give the citizens their props. We had good tax collection during those times. They paid their taxes, as well as the growth that took place in the county over the last year. So, and if I'm wrong, Mr. Wood, please correct me. All of that is a part of that 1.6 that we had accumulated over.
That's right.
I didn't want people to think that we're taxing and having a free for all funding on the side when it's more of a better stewardship and finance department and staff that we come about these overage.
And I can tell you, a lot of the audits that we've done so far this year, be it cities, towns, counties, we're kind of seeing the same trend that revenues came in better than what was expected. And of course, a lot of people held down their spending because of the COVID issue. And so it had both had a positive effect. on the governing body.
Other comments? Jimmy?
Thank you. Let me ask you this. With our budget, where it's at now, what is the minimum we should have in our reserves?
I mean, the rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months. So 3 is probably a little too low, and 6, in my opinion, is too much. So 4 to 5 is kind of your sweet spot, and that's, I mean, y'all are right at about 4 months. So
Which is in dollars?
which is about $8 million. So
Yeah.
your expenditures for the general fund for the whole year are 24 million. So if you divide that out, it's 2 million a month. So 4 months, $8 million. So I feel that the county is right where it needs to be.
Where are we at this moment? What's the peak that we've had our reserves to during a year?
I don't know what it is as of right now.
Generally speaking, your peak's going to be hitting sometime in February. Most of the tax receipts are received from property taxes. And then for the next 10 months, it's a decrease every month as we exceed spending compared to revenue. So our peak generally is about, January to February.
What's the peak we've had in our reserves?
I can get that for you. I don't know it off the top of my head, sir.
Can Sandra answer that question?
Ms. Brown?
Oh, I was just asking, what is the peak of our reserves, the highest point within the year that we've had?
Yes, ma'am. Please come on up. Thank you.
Look at the reserves on a quarterly basis. So for the last quarter of fiscal year 2021, that was our strongest quarter, because at the end of the year, that's when we got the majority of coming in, the state revenues, the CARES money. So it hit the high peak then. So
What's
I would
the
say
number?
probably 3 million.
How much?
3 million.
3 million. So our budget, our reserves has never gone over 3 million.
No, I don't think she's understanding your question, sir.
3 million is pretty low.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting a little confused.
When you say reserves, I think I'm
General
fund balance. Oh, okay, for the fund balance.
General fund balance
Yeah.
reserves.
I mean, my guess, it could probably get as high as $2 million.
I think it's been higher than that, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I was thinking that you were talking about just what we're moving over.
Right now, you're going to be at your low month because you haven't had any problems.
Sure.
Mhm.
I guess what I'm saying, just for the record, we've hit up close to 13, 14 million at some points in times during the year, haven't we, in the past?
In previous years, before we created the fund balance policy that we have now, yes, sir, at some point we hit that much. That's why council allocated those funds out for some capital projects, so that we wouldn't be sitting on unnecessary excess funds.
And what's the lowest we've ever ran?
Well, I would say since I've been employed, this is the highest as far as the 14 million where we are now.
We're at 14 million.
Yeah, where we are now, total.
But that's what I was trying to get to.
That's not all cash.
Correct. But bottom line is that's the peak that we've been in this year.
Well, we ended last year with 11 million, and so this year we ended with 14, so that's almost a 3 million growth.
And we need to have in reserves how many million as far as the bottom line?
Unassigned should be 4 to 5 months of operation.
Which is $8 million. So we're doing pretty good setting money aside. And this is a point in case that I go to. I have a tough time creating fees or millage when we're able to put aside that much money. That's just my opinion. But y'all are doing a good job watching the money. It's not your fault. It's just what we do. Vic, you're very conservative. You do a great job on it. But I just think that when we're able to save that much money, and we do it quite often. I've been working with Vic 10 years. He's been a great steward when it comes to putting money aside. But as I said, I just have a problem in raising millage or creating fees whenever we can have $14 million in the reserve. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass.
But Mr. Carpenter, isn't it correct? I mean, I understand your point, Mr. Jones, but that reserve doesn't mean that, for example, the fire fund has that type of reserve, correct? Or nor does it have access to it. Isn't that correct?
Theirs is a separate fund.
Right,
so
correct.
It doesn't reflect in that dollar amount.
I just don't want the impression being left here that we're sitting on a lot of money that for some reason we're just deciding not to use. But there's a lot of state laws and a lot of things that are binding us.
Well, of the 14 million, over 6 million is committed
Correct.
already for projects, capital projects that
Right.
are either been committed but haven't been spent or in the process of being spent. So of the 14 million, about 6.5 is already essentially spent on projects. That's also where we pull when we buy vehicles, heavy equipment.
Correct.
That's what we use. The council's policy is that we keep 3 months of operating cash in reserve and 1 month of operating for emergencies or disasters. Anything over that, staff recommends the council how to spend it, and we recommend with our first priority being on heavy equipment and capital items, buildings, things like that. So as we present the budget, anything excess over the 3 months and 1 month is recommended to go into capital projects. That's what this year is putting in the improvements out of the Casey West complex and some others around the county. Again, heavy equipment, trucks, sheriff's vehicles, things like that.
And you're talking about capital, which is separate from operating funds to
Yes, sir.
operate a fire department or an EMS. That's
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The capital money comes out of any excess revenues is generally how we've handled it.
If I may.
Other comments? Mr. Jones, if we can close that out. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
Mr. Snodgrass, I don't have a problem with what you said, but bottom line is we still save $14 million. And I'm just saying that maybe $8 million we need to have on hand. Any way you look at it, we're still putting aside millions of dollars each year or within a few years or whatever it may be. And that was my point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. I think we're ready to close it out. I'll come in and visit you, Mr. Wood. But to my understanding, 14 minus 6 already committed means 8 million reserve, which is what we asked you to do in our policy. And it looks like this is a very well-managed administration, a very well-done job by our CFO, and it's always great to hear from you, Mr. Wood. I look for more instruction at your tabletop the next time I can get around to see you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will move on
Thank you.
to the next public presentation, which is item 2, Kershaw County Opportunity Zone, from Mr. Jeff Burgess, and it's been asked by Councilman Snodgrass.
Boy, don't he wish.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go to Washington right now, David. All right, Jeff, bring up the team. Here they come.
Good evening, Chairman, members of council, and Ms. Mary. Before I get started, I want to introduce these guys real quick. They were instrumental. They started this opportunity zone prior to my arrival. The county had the foresight, like many other counties, to try to take advantage of it. So the ball was already rolling when I got here, and I was able to pick it up. But first, I'd like to introduce Azad Khan. He's with Parker Poe Consulting. They actually were the ones that helped formulate and put the prospectus together. And probably someone who did the majority of the research on the county end was Stuart Kidd. If you remember Stuart, he was formerly under me, had enough of me. He was the existing business and workforce development manager. He's now the talent and training development coordinator for the county. So I've asked him to be here to help out with some of the questions and if there's any other information you need. But real quick, the opportunity zones were created by the Federal Tax Cut Act in 2017. This is where zones were designated in certain counties or to spur mainly economic development and job creation in distressed communities by providing tax benefits to investors who invested their eligible capital into these zones. So right here, you can kind of see where our opportunity zone is. It extends pretty much the Highway 521 corridor. It extends all the way out in East Camden, back over toward Lugoff. You get up to the Watery Rivers where that edge is at that point, and all the way down to pretty much 521 and I-20. Those were listed as designated census tracts by the U.S. Department of Treasury. It was actually formally established through 50 governors, 4 territories, and the mayor of Washington, D.C. That's how these were all set up, and once it was formalized, they put them into play. So those counties and regions that had them have the opportunity to set up these opportunity zones. The whole idea behind it is you're trying to draw investment in. And it's not just industrial investment. The nice part about this is you're looking at retail, you're looking at healthcare, hospitality, and in some cases, just what we'd call enterprise opportunities. One case in point being one of our opportunity zones, and what lies in it is the airport, which was highlighted tonight with the young man's work out there. That has received a great deal of attention by investors who are interested in possibly putting, I'll just lay it out there, a restaurant or housing. Another facility that has been very well looked at is the ATEC facility. Right now, it is being utilized by the school district, but as it moves forward with that, they're aware that that building and that property may come available. And one of the biggest drivers in this country and in even our county is workforce housing. And that's another component of this opportunity zone is we're reaching out to those groups that are looking to set up apartments.
Excuse me, Mr. Jordan is here from Tim Scott's office, and I would just point out to you that Mr. Jordan will tell you proudly that it was Mr. Tim Scott, our own senator, Tim Scott, who came up with this idea for the whole nation. Go ahead, Jeff, please.
No worries. And it's been a pleasure meeting these folks as well. Going back to just, it's kind of a non-traditional form of economic development. This gives us another arrow in the quiver, so to speak, when we're speaking to investors and so forth. As we move forward, I think we have a little bit more of a window. I think 2026 is the sunset on this particular enterprise or opportunity zone. The main part of it is, and I'll probably defer to Stuart and I'll defer to Azad, is what we get out of it when we reach out. We actually have a website set up for this for investors to visit, and I will turn at this point to Azad to kind of explain how that works.
All right, sir, please. Thanks for coming, too.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all for having me here today. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Azad Khan, and I'm a consultant with Parker Pro Consulting. And some of you may remember we started this project in August of 2020. We put together a group of government leaders such as yourselves, community leaders, and stakeholders in Kershaw County to come up with ideas that we felt were compelling investment opportunities for fund managers to consider. We met with you guys, we had this meeting, we came up with several ideas, and then we developed an investment prospectus. And so this page on the screen here is one of 40 pages of that prospectus, where the goal was to highlight and describe Kershaw County as an attractive investment location, which was easy to do, as you might imagine, but also then to point to specific ways that investors could put dollars in this community. And so we had investment ideas ranging from industrial development, housing development, and then also retail development. So that we pointed to specific real estate assets that were vacant and available at the time, and also to resources that the community offered to industrial tenants to, again, highlight the community as a place to invest for industrial investors. So we developed this opportunity zone prospectus, and then in conjunction with that, we also developed a landing page, which is a website so that investors could find this opportunity zone and investments that are available in Kershaw County online, because that's where investments start, right? These investment fund managers are doing research online to figure out where to put their dollars. The last piece, the last component of our work was to take the message to investors. So it's one thing just to develop a prospectus, to have an online landing page. It's a whole other thing to take that message to investors that have stated interest in investing in opportunity zones. So we compiled a list of about 400 different contacts, not just fund managers from across the country, but also real estate developers in the region and high net worth individuals in the state. Thinking that, again, we want to encourage these high net worth individuals, real estate developers to invest in Kershaw County's opportunity zone. So with this now contact list of over 400 people, we bifurcated it into different segments. So those that said they were interested in retail, we developed an email marketing campaign specific to their interests. We did the same thing for those investors that said they were interested in industrial investment. The same thing for investors that were interested in housing development. And then we catered our correspondence to them based on their interest. There were a number of investors that said, we were interested in any opportunities that are available. And so for those ones, we sent them everything that we had in our prospectus to encourage them again to invest in Kershaw County. So over a 6-month period, we sent 21 emails. Again, we stretched it out over 6 months so that we didn't get, we didn't have investors block us, right? So we tailored it to each investor's interest, and then sent emails to remind them of opportunities that were available, again, to encourage their investment here in Kershaw County.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Khan?
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
So it covers a portion of Kershaw County.
That's right.
The questions that I get from folks in the community that are like-minded investors, I guess, they wanted to have some of the tax benefits in the other areas of the county, including Lugoff and Elgin. What's the criteria for the public to know that went into whether or not a census tract was selected for this type of opportunity zone?
So primarily, the U.S. Treasury Department took in several factors into consideration, but primarily there were areas where low income and disenfranchised communities, so relative to other census tracts. And then each state's governor had a lot of input as to which census tracts were ultimately selected as well.
Okay. Because whenever I initially saw the map, it had been set in stone. I asked, well, what about Lugoff and Elgin? They said, oh, well, you know, the governor's already decided and you don't really have much influence. Are they subject to amendment or increase in any way?
You know, that is unclear, and I would say it's unlikely. There are talks at the federal level of maybe some changes happening with the program, but it's to be determined, I think.
Are we talking another 10 years, the next census, and then you get to determine what your new opportunity zone looks like?
It could be. It's unknown at this point, I think.
Okay.
Well, that was my question. I look at that and I say we have 770 square miles in the county, and I don't see Elgin, I don't see Lugoff, I don't see Bethune, I don't see Cassett. So what do we tell, just in plain English, what do we tell our constituents that they're not in the opportunity zone?
I think the easiest way to answer that question would be that a lot of it was not in your control. And so, again, there were recommendations made locally that were considered by the governor, and then the governor's office made the ultimate decision, I think, as to what census tracts were selected. I think there are maybe 30 or 40 census tracts in the whole state. So, one of those numbers were what was selected in Kershaw County.
Yeah, I thank Mr. Snodgrass for making this clear to me, and Mr. Connell's comment certainly resonates. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Sure. Azad, thank you for coming and for putting this together. And as somebody who was part of the conversation early on, I'm thankful to see this taken off. Again, I think it's a situation where we didn't choose the zone. They didn't ask our input. They just said, hey, here's your opportunity zone. Essentially, they said, here's the rules of the game. Do you want to play or not? And my thought was, sure, there are other areas of the county that could be an opportunity zone, but that wasn't our call. So this is our opportunity zone, and so let's make the best of it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time to drive east on Highway 1 to realize, wow, this is opportunity zone. Because I think one of the big criteria was an area that needs revitalization. Commercial buildings that need rehab, commercial buildings that have been dilapidated, and so to encourage that type of investment. What is the advantage to the investor? So if I'm the investor, what advantage does these groups? And you can explain that too, right? Because it's not particularly maybe one investor, but we're reaching out to investor groups. Is that correct?
Yes. So there are a couple of ways that investors can take advantage of opportunity zone benefits. One, and this is going to be the biggest way that the benefits are realized, is through investments in real estate. The second is investments in business, but it becomes far more complicated and less likely to secure that type of investment. But the way it works is primarily that these large funds are gathering capital gains from investors that are looking to defer capital gains tax. And so if you invest your dollars into a qualified opportunity zone fund, and that fund then invests in an opportunity zone, then you are able to defer your capital gains tax by 5 years and reduce your basis in that gain by 10%. Additionally, if you hold your investment within the opportunity zone for 10 years, then any new gains are not subject to capital gains tax.
Have you seen projects that have been completed in our state that have taken advantage of this, and what are some examples?
So I've seen projects that have announced but have not yet been completed. There was a big, a relatively large project in the low country part of our state in Hampton County that included agricultural and co-packing. It announced, I want to say, in 2020. I don't know if it's broken ground or if investments have started yet, but the businesses that are establishing that co-packing operation are actually setting up a qualified opportunity fund specifically to use their capital gains to fund the project. And then there are other projects along the I-95 corridor on the low country part of our state where I've seen investors park dollars in speculative construction. So their goal is to establish warehouse and distribution parks in that part of the state that's designated as an opportunity zone with the hopes of holding it, potentially getting a tenant, and then holding that property for at least 10 years.
All right. And just to be clear, this is not a county program. This is not a program where they're getting any incentive from Kershaw County, correct? This is all federal
Yes,
incentives.
it was established by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 at the federal level.
Thanks.
All right, that's been very helpful. I'll probably be in touch with you because one of my burning issues is the ATEC. Once North Central moves out, we can certainly leverage that for East Camden. Other comments, gentlemen? I think we need to call time on this discussion. But thank you, David, for bringing it in, Jeff and the team. Good to have you and the team. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Do we have examples of the website, Danny?
I'm going to call time on this in a moment, okay, David?
Okay. That was part of his presentation. Go check out the website. You guys did a great job with it. And Jeff, thank you so much. OpportunityZone.com.
Yeah, would you email that out? Yeah, thank you very much. That was perfect. That was good questions, everybody. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Well done. All right, the next item is moving into the business of our county a little bit more deeply. Let me make sure I've got it right. There's a resolution, item, tab C, page 9. Nope, we've already done that one.
13.
So we go to ordinances, I think.
Yes.
Third reading of an ordinance of the county council. It's on page 20, tab D, to amend the official zoning map for approximately 86 acres of land with a tax parcel along King Street. Mr. Carpenter, would you introduce the topic?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for third reading an ordinance that authorizes the rezoning of approximately 86 acres of land in Kershaw County from its current RD1 to R15. The council has previously approved this on second reading.
Yes, very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Tucker. Discussion, Mr. Snodgrass or Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chair, I'll just say I really appreciate how all parties involved have been in communication with each other. I know there have been some questions from those who live in the vicinity, but to my knowledge, I know those who are requesting rezoning have been responsive to that, and that was just a very positive thing to see. And as in the prior two readings, I would move that we finalize this with third reading. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council. I want to say a special thanks because I haven't had an opportunity to talk to him, to Mr. Robert Likey. I know you have really worked good with the residents around there and addressing their concerns and making sure that they are comfortable with this new development going in and they don't lose what they moved there for. And that's good neighbors. There's no need to start off with bad neighbors. And I really appreciate your efforts. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get back in touch with you to have much dialogue, but I know you were hard at work. So I appreciate you and all others to make sure that was mitigated and dealt with on a very professional level. Thank you.
Other comments? I, too, have been out there. I've witnessed the good faith efforts by all involved, and it's how you grow a community and make it a community in spirit as in also in the physical nature. With that, I think we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and thank you, Robbie. It passes on the third reading. Item number 2 is a third reading of amended and restated ordinance to create a multi-county business park. It's at tab E, page 34 in your electronic books. Mr. Carpenter, would you open that, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for third reading an ordinance that amends the existing multi-county business park between Kershaw County and Lee County. This merely brings the business park into the same compliant terms with the investment of the Prestige Farms at the Governor's Hill Industrial Park. Council has previously approved this on second reading.
Thank you, sir. Can we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is that you, David?
Yes,
All
I
right,
wanna
Mr.
yield to-
Snodgrass, a second.
Same
Mr. Connell. Any comments, Mr. Snodgrass? Mr. Connell?
No, sir.
Any further comments? Very good. We had this in public hearing. With that, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimous, and we move to item number 3, a third reading of an ordinance setting the millage rate for the county. It's at tab F. It's on the screen. It's on page 37 in your electronic books. Mr. Carpenter, please enter this.
Mr. Chairman, members of council have in front of you for third reading the ordinance that sets the millage for Kershaw County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st. As you recall, the council has previously passed a budget. State law requires that we then pass an ordinance that sets the millage.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, second.
Second.
From Mr. Snodgrass. Discussion led by Mr. Tucker, if you wish.
I just want to thank Dennis Arledge, our auditor, and staff here with the county on getting this prepared and ready. So, of course, we can get our tax notices on time, get our millage set. And this was also a reassessment year. So with all that being said, I think it came out very well where you'll be receiving a little increase in the millage?
A decrease.
Decrease, I'm sorry, in the millage, because of the reassessment. And that means that just property values went up. So with that, I thank all who was involved.
Yeah. Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, this is demonstrative of the great budget year that we just came out of, the budget planning in which we had several obstacles, the hospital being sold to a not-for-profit organization, losing that FELO, an EMS system that would still need those funds. And so through being able to restructure debt, lower that, and this is kind of the final piece of our hard work that we did in the spring and into the summertime. And our auditor, not Mr. Arledge, but the auditor that just presented to us, helped us realize that we are in we're in a healthy spot where we have leverage debt for our benefit, but we are living within our means, and we're in a good spot. And I think this is just this kind of ties all that up with a nice bow, if you will. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Any others? Mr. Jones, go right ahead, sir.
Looking at the page up there on the wall, Mr. Carpenter, it says County Operations and Personnel Budget 2020, 65.8, 2021, 66.8, which was up. Then it looks at B, County Debt Service, 2021, 5.1, 2020, 10.6, which is down. And the County Fire, 2021, 11.1, and of course in 2020, 10.6. And then you look at the Emergency Medical Services, 9.1, 2021, and 5.1 in 2020. Those are the numbers that I talked to you about earlier. And if you add all those up, I think what happens is that we're 0.4 of a mil down.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Not up.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments? I just want to say this has been an effort across this whole council here. Every man here had a part in this. Much of this was driven by a discussion of debt servicing, and you see that debt servicing has been cut in half in terms of debt that we had, and that allowed Mr. Carpenter, with extraordinary efforts, to offset the fact that we have lost $1 million in revenue that Mr. Snodgrass just talked about. And so with that, moving the millage around. We have a reduction in millage, first time in about 10 years. And while taxes may go up and down based on the value of the property that's being taxed, the net result for our county is in this tough COVID year, we're coming out where we have reduced taxes by a small amount, but with much effort, we have reduced the total debt we as a county have. And I congratulate you, Vic. You've had a great audit, and now you have this prospect with Sandra. I see you grinning behind that mask again, but it was well done.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Thank you. One thing, Vic, I do thank you for the job well done, and Ms. Sandra as well. But I'm going to tell you, I really appreciate, we don't always agree, him and me, but I appreciate this man's effort. Russell Brazel has jumped into these numbers, and he's really asked some questions and brought some things to the forefront. And I just want to tell you, good job, Russ.
I appreciate that
truly
comment
mean that.
very much. Thank you, sir.
And, you know, we need to continue on. Now, however, this, as Paul Harvey says, the rest of the story, this has nothing to do with the millage. But, you know, we did increase the car fee, $10 per car. We did increase the fire fee. So, I mean, you know, before we gloat too much on how much we saved the taxpayers, we've also added in there with fees as well. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Other discussion? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Respond to Mr. Jones. I appreciate that very much. There were some opportunities. It wasn't all my doing. It was a lot of just opportunity to save money. And we will work on those fees and other issues that people are not happy about. We'll work on those in next budget cycle. We can't correct or change everything the way we want to in one year, but everybody has worked together. I appreciate the way that everyone's worked together. I look forward to working on that sewer tax next year and getting our sewer system to where it stands alone without any tax. So that's a goal that I'm going to set personally, and I hope that everybody's willing to work together again this coming year the way we did this last year.
Absolutely. I would also say that with financial success in the economic development world, 500 new jobs, and that's been offset. Some of our need for government taxes and fees have been offset substantially by the continued health of the economic development effort. So that has offset with feelos that have helped us out. With that, I think we can move to a vote. Thank you again, everybody. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimous, and off we go. Thank you, Sandra, and pass that word on to the treasurer and the auditor. Thank you very much. We move to item 4, second reading of an ordinance authorizing the execution of an amendment for a fee in lieu. Subject, as I just raised a few minutes ago, it's on page 38 in your electronic book. It's on the screen. Mr. Carpenter, would you bring it in?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, we have in front of you for second reading an ordinance that is essentially extending an existing fee in lieu with an existing industry in the county. The project's currently known as Project Bobcat.
Okay, with that, can we have a motion to approve? Anybody?
So move.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Tucker, comments?
Mr. Carpenter, are they in a position to where do we know who Bobcat is, or they still are in a position they need to remain?
We do know, Jeff, can we reveal it or?
Third reading.
Okay.
But it does involve an additional investment in the project.
They're already here.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And this is normal procedure. It's not a lack of transparency. This was the wishes of the company that we're dealing with. And so we honor that in order to bring it before the people at the third reading.
Yeah.
Other comments? Mr. Tucker, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, council. Mr. Carpenter, you or either, Mr. Burgess, what's the investment and number of jobs?
Mr. Burgess, come on up, please, sir. Jeff?
Yes, sir. The investment is $4 million in investment. Right now, they do have jobs, but they are not committing to those jobs or a specific number, though we have been told it's between 15 and 25.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. It's an upgrade to an existing operation.
Which is always good.
Yeah. Other comments? I think that's good news. More industrial development, more philo, and more jobs. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. Mr. Jones-Tuca, thank you. It's unanimous, Mary, and we move on to the third reading. The last item under ordinances is item number 5, second reading of an ordinance with a redistricting plan for county council. It's on page 60. It's on the wall, and it's at tab H. I think we'll have some discussion on this. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Very good,
Second reading.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Gardner, very good. Discussion, I believe there's a subsequent motion. Mr. Tucker?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make an amendment to this motion to add the maps of 2B, and let me explain what is taking place. I was out at our last meeting, and so I just got a chance to review these maps just yesterday. Me and a couple of colleagues sat down with Mr. Joey for about 2.5 hours, and this is another option that would be in best interest for the county as a whole and the majority council seat. So that is my amendment.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion, please, Mr. Tucker.
Yes, I have to agree with Ms. Uten, I think that's the way you pronounce it. On these maps, and we can get them for the rest of them too, there are street names, so you can actually identify where you live and who's going to be your council representative. With the 2B, it gives what we call the BVAP, and Joey, if I'm using wrong terminology, please correct me. He was in here, I don't know.
He's right there.
Okay, there you go. He's the tall guy with the bald spot.
Yeah, Joey, you're likely to be talking in a few minutes. Good to see you again, sir. Come up, Mr. Operman.
So with that being said,
Mayor, would you reflect that Mr. Operman is here today, please? Thank you. Go ahead. And just have a seat, Joe. We'll be at you in a minute.
That raised the VBAP score for the minority potential voters in that district, as well as kept the population, because we have to be in so much of a variance of representing the same amount of people, and it gave that balance. And it actually gave back a part of the district that was taken away in the other scenarios that I already represent. So for those reasons, I'm introducing this tonight, and I think it's the best fit that represents everything that we're trying to accomplish with the redistricting.
Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, I was going to say, the only difference, I think it added one precinct.
A census block.
One precinct. It's
One census block.
Yeah,
one
Joel?
census block. That, I mean, that's the only difference between it and map 2, I believe. That's the only difference.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So the scenario 2B that's been referred to is exactly the same way in every way to scenario 2, with one exception. There is what's called a census block, which is the smallest unit of geography that the Census Bureau uses, one census block. It covers a neighborhood surrounding Cottonwood Lane. That neighborhood and that census block is currently in Council District 2 under the 2011 plan. Scenario 2 restores that neighborhood to Council 2 so that the only difference between 2B that's been referred to and scenario 2 that's displayed to our left is that rather than being in District 5, that census block surrounding Cottonwood Lane neighborhood would go back to District 2, which is where it is right now.
Which is in the Antioch vicinity, just for clarification.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's correct. The additional value of that change is that it reduces the population deviation. It only affects District 5 and District 2.
Right.
The other 4 districts remain exactly the same as in scenario 2, which is currently displayed. But it reduces the population deviation by slightly increasing the population of District 2 and slightly reducing the population of District 5, so that currently the population difference with District 5 being slightly larger and District 2 being slightly smaller in scenario 2 is about almost 1,000 people according to the census. But in scenario 2B, that difference is reduced to approximately 839 people. So that rather than having a 9.2% deviation from mean, this change in 2B would be a 7.9 deviation from mean. So it comes closer to complying with a true one person, one vote. Both scenarios comply with the law as to that matter, but there would be a greater equality of population in District 2 to District 5 under the proposed scenario 2B.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, and why, Mr. Opperman, is that important as far as the mean and the variation? Because some people listening probably don't have a complete understanding.
Sure. There is a requirement. You hear one person, one vote frequently described in the context of redistricting, and it is the most important thing. The reason we change every 10 years as soon as the census numbers come out, and they came out a little late this year nationally from the Commerce Department, is that single-member districts in a jurisdiction have to have substantially equal population. For U.S. House districts, the U.S. Constitution is very specific that they have to be as equal as possible. For other single-member districts, you get a little wiggle room because you may have a policy that you want to follow, keeping traditional redistricting boundaries intact, recognizing a rural community versus a municipality or something like that. So there's a little wiggle room, but what that looks like in the law is if you take the full jurisdiction, Kershaw County in this instance, with its new population, which is 65,400 some odd, you divide that by the number of single-member districts, in this case 6, you come out with 10,900.5, which we would round up to 10,901. So for 10% deviation, you look at 10% of that mean district size. So what we're trying to ensure as we go through this process, one, to comply with the law, and two, to ensure that each district has a substantially equal population, is that if there's any difference, district to district, it's less than essentially 1,090, because that means it's less than 10% of the mean district size. And the scenario 2B reduces that deviation rather significantly so that you just have less of a difference district to district. And that means people's voting power in one district is substantially equal to people's voting power in the other district.
And it bumps up the BVAP better than it is in 2 versus 2B.
That's correct, and that is a factor that may be considered and indeed must be considered for compliance with the Voting Rights Act. But we've worked hard to ensure that that is not the predominant factor in the drawing of the map. If it were the predominant factor, that could create constitutional scrutiny in other ways. But one of the ways that we've avoided getting into that territory is including other important factors in the council's resolution as to how the redistricting would be conducted. One, complying with federal law as to one person, one vote. Two, complying with the Voting Rights Act, but also looking at ways to ensure that municipalities, especially small municipalities, are not split, and that the county seat is split as little as possible.
Thank you. Let me just do some quick housekeeping and we'll have some other discussion. On page 60 is a resolution we passed 2 months ago saying the general principles that we would follow. And Joe and Vic and the team have made sure we are in compliance with those general principles that we laid out and we voted on in this area. Secondly, we originally agreed that we do a public hearing today and vote in the second reading to a single option. But given that this is a new introduction under 2 Bravo that I'm using military language, if you understand that, submariner down there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Under 2B or 2 Bravo, this represents a fourth one that me and the other men to my left have not had a full chance to look at, and neither has the population in general. So the proposal I have going here is not to vote to a single option tonight, but to stay in our agreement for transparency and dialogue that we put that fourth option up once we clear up these maps, as Susan said, right, Susan? And put up the fourth option for another review by the public, and it'll be in this room as long as the building is open until we vote on the third time. So the basic idea is we would not vote tonight to a single option, but only vote on this amendment and have a total of 4. Is that correct, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay. And then the third issue is, Joe, you represent an amazing resource. You make my head hurt.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
But I'm sure, would you be willing to hang around and talk to Susan and Mr. Bracy and others who have questions?
That would be a pleasure and an honor.
And you can make their head hurt as badly. Excuse me, Amanda, forgive me, my fault. Thank you. Who is that? Okay, I can't remember why I screwed that up, Amanda. But thank you for coming tonight. So, I mean, you have some people who are clearly here tonight to hear this discussion, and you might clear it up for them.
I'd be very happy to, and I would just reiterate that the 2 Bravo that is proposed is exactly the same as scenario 2. For council members who are curious and members of the public who are curious, it is exactly the same as scenario 2, except for 1 census block on the boundary of 2 and 5 is adjusted.
Bless you.
But that, as the chairman, as you point out, Mr. Chairman, that'll be publicly available for people to see.
Perfect. Okay. Back to other questions. That was just some housekeeping. Others? Mr. Tucker.
Yes, let me just finish.
And then I'll go to Mr. Connell.
Okay, we're using terminology that people may not be familiar with.
Thank you.
BVAP, can you explain what that is, please?
That refers to VAP in the context of census data and in the context of redistricting, refers to voting age population. In other words, persons counted by the census who are 18 and older. So if you hear a term like HVAP, that would refer to Hispanic voting age population, or WVAP. Usually it would be listed as non-Hispanic WVAP.
Right.
That would refer, in shorthand, white voting age population. BVAP technically refers to non-Hispanic black voting age population. And that's a relevant statistic for determining compliance with the Voting Rights Act, in this case, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
Thank you.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joey, I appreciate you being here tonight and working with us over the last number of months and trying to get this sorted out. In talking with folks who've had questions in the public, the most useful hypothetical I've been able to discuss with them has just been composition matters in particular districts. That's why you have to focus on the majority-minority district to make sure that folks who are minorities under federal government classifications have power, because a vote is power. And the hypothetical would be if Russell had 10,000 constituents in his district and I had 5,000, well, one of us has twice as much voting power. The folks with the larger membership in the district, they'd have half as much voting power as the folks in my district. So that's why we go through all these machinations to try to make sure that it's as fair as possible, that minorities are fairly represented, and that each district has a reasonable amount of voting power. Sometimes it's weird to cut a subdivision in half and it doesn't make sense on the map, and that's why you have a little bit of variance. But for the public and the folks I've been talking to, those hypotheticals seem to make sense.
Yes, sir, I think that's exactly right. And for instance, under the plan passed in 2011, one district has, I believe, almost 2,000 more people than the mean district size. One district has about 1,500 too few, so that deviation is 23%. So you got one district that's 9,555 people right now, and one district that's 12,037. And in order to get that right, one, out of fairness, and two, to follow the law, we got to make these adjustments.
Yeah, and populations will change in various districts, but
Yes, sir.
it represents a lot of effort, cost, and time to do it. And so we try to get it done every 10 years.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
If I may.
Mr. Jones, and then we'll do Mr. Brazel and Mr. Snodgrass. Go ahead.
Listen, this is my second time working with you, and you came up with a couple of solutions for District 4, and I think what I said to you was pick the one that will best work to fit Mr. Tucker's district, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you have that choice.
Okay. Mr. Brazel.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this has been an interesting exercise. My first year, never being involved in any sort of political situation, You're very intelligent, and thank you very much for helping guide me and all of us. And I've learned so much, and I'll be praying for you because I know you got 2 more of these to do this week. So
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman.
you've got a lot to keep straight, and really appreciate it. It's a very interesting process.
It's a great pleasure to work with y'all as well, and I've learned a lot, and I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Snodgrass.
Just a question, Mr. Carpenter, are we still going to try to move forward with staff creating a website? Or, because I think it's pretty archaic for people to say, hey, come look at these walls in this building when we're in 2021.
Yes, sir. To the best of our website's ability to put it up interactively, we will do so. Yes,
Okay. Yeah, I know he's got some really good shape files to go to Todd, and then Todd can put in the streetscapes and everything else, and so we can just access high-quality PDFs. That'd be great.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, yeah, Mr. Tucker, and we'll close it out.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I want to review one more part. This is very transparent for a lot of people that's watching and sitting in this room. Mr. Opperman, is there anywhere legally possible to draw another minority-majority district?
With the current population and the current composition of council, no, sir.
Did we look at that?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Real hard.
Yeah, to examine that question is required by law, and as I interpret the Voting Rights Act.
Mr. Opperman, can you talk in the mic? I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you. Bring that mic
Thank
up
you,
to your
Councilman.
altitude.
Right.
Thank you, Councilman. Can y'all hear me better?
Yeah.
To your question, Councilman Tucker, it would be required to look into that as to complying with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, because one of the things you look at is can there be a majority-minority district that is reasonably compact as case law defines that, and you wouldn't just look in one area. You would look countywide if that's a possibility. And then there are other factors that determine whether or not you would then proceed and draw such a district. But because that's part of the analysis, it was incumbent on me to look and see if that was possible. And with the population as it is, and with the number of council members with such a population, it is not.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's excellent. Last point is a lot of people have been texting me about the redistricting at the state level. That's the State House, the State Senate, and the State House of Representatives. We at county have no influence on that. We can complain and suggest, but the State House, the Speaker and the President of the Senate rule in that domain, and we don't have much to say about it. And it's starting to come out in draft. But if you have a question about that, then talk to your delegation or talk to us, and we'd be happy to tell the delegation. But we have no influence on that as far as I know. Jimmy, go right ahead.
Mr. Opperman, let me just ask you a question about a scenario. If we had 7 districts, could we have 2 minority districts out of that?
No.
Still wouldn't work?
Not with 7, no, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Just a question.
Everybody needs to know that we're doing our very best to make sure there's a minority representation on this body.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And that's a very good question, Jimmy and Sammy. With that, let's move to a vote on the amendment, and then we'll go to the base document. All right, with that, restate your amendment, Sammy, so everybody knows what we're doing on 2B.
Yes, sir. Would like to
Bravo.
Yes, sir. Add 2 Bravo to the existing maps that we're going to look at for final vote in December's meeting.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous. And we move now to the basic amendment motion as amended. All those in favor of the basic motion as amended signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous. Mary, it moves to a 3rd reading with 4 options. With that, we move to new business, I believe that's correct. Yep. Item number 1 is approval of an agreement with the town of Bethune as to a magistrate serving as a municipal recorder. It's on page 101 at tab India, I believe. And I'm going to read it, and it's where we're reaching out to help the town of Bethune. Whereas the Supreme Court of South Carolina has authorized a procedure for assigning magistrates to serve as municipal judges. And whereas the town of Bethune desires to have such a magistrate, James Davis, to serve as municipal recorder. Now therefore, pursuant to the authority of Kershaw County Council, the following agreement is entered into. The County Council agrees to authorize County Magistrate James E. Davis Jr. to serve as municipal recorder for the town of Bethune, subject to the approval of the Chief Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court. The town of Bethune agrees to pay a sum of money per month so the county can increase Magistrate Davis's monthly salary by said amount for the extra work he will perform on behalf of the town of Bethune as its municipal recorder, and the town of Bethune will likewise pay Kershaw County per month a sum of money which will be equal to the town of Bethune's required FICA and Medicare contribution, the town of Bethune's state retirement contribution, and a pro rata share of the employee contribution for health care insurance. Kershaw County will be required to list Magistrate Todd under its liability insurance, and likewise the town of Bethune will be required to list Magistrate Davis under its liability insurance, and each government entity will provide the necessary bond as required. That upon the appointment of Magistrate Davis by Chief Justice to serve, and it said James Davis shall keep his magisterial functions and municipal functions entirely separate by utilizing separate supplies, warrants, dockets, bank accounts, and hours. He must make it clear at all times when serving as a judge whether he is acting in his magisterial or municipal capacity. This agreement, upon execution, shall be forwarded to in the Chief Magistrate of Kershaw County, who shall retain a copy and forward an executed copy to the Office of Court Administration in Columbia. That upon the signing of the order by Chief Justice, copies will be distributed to all affected, and so on. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion, we approve, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, a second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner and Mr. Connell. Mary, your choice. But we now move to a discussion. Mr. Tucker. Let Mr. Connell, he won on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just curious, under paragraph 2, are they still negotiating the amount to be paid, or they need to determine
To my
the scope
understanding,
of work?
there's going to be no compensation, so it'll be zero, is my current understanding of it.
So the question then is, are we comfortable with this going forward with a zero in there, or are we to approve that? Ken, we need a little help here.
Well, if Judge Davis agreed to serve for no compensation, then that would be his decision.
All right.
Now, they still have to list him under their liability insurance. That's not going to change.
Is the scope of work pretty light right there?
Well, it depends on.
I mean, kind of like planning and zoning, we had that agreement back a while
Yeah,
ago.
so this is just, they're currently finding themselves without a judge. They're looking for a judge. Judge Davis has agreed to step in on a temporary basis for them. He is willing to do it to help them, but we're required to go through this process. If they were to agree to any amount of compensation, then the town of Bethune would be required to pay that in full to the county. But to my understanding, there is no compensation being discussed at this point.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Well, I'm looking at the signature blocks. The clerk and the mayor of Bethune must sign it, and then I sign it. And I would presume that before I sign it, we'll have an agreement on the compensation, whether it be zero or whatever it is.
Mr. Chairman, yes, the town of Bethune would execute it first, and if they deem not to pay him any compensation, they would insert none in that block. And then, of course, Judge Davis has to agree to it also.
Right.
Okay. And I'm going to meet with the incoming and the outgoing mayor of Bethune on Thursday, and I'll mention this, but I'll let you and their attorney sort it out, okay?
If I may.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Mr. Attorney, Mr. DeBose, so since there's not going to be any compensation based on Judge Davis doesn't want it, we pass this resolution here as it is tonight and the way it is worded, they can still get compensation. without coming back before us,
Well,
unless we do an amendment, correct?
It's going to be signed first, as the chairman said, by the mayor and the clerk. They're going to execute this and send it back to us. And if they determine they're not going to have any compensation,
It needs to say that in there.
it would say it. They would have to insert that. And then Mr. Judge Davis would have to agree to it.
Correct. And this is temporary.
And then we'd have to agree to it because he is a magistrate, and he would have to perform some degree of duties.
But I think he wants it to be temporary.
To my understanding, yes, sir. He has no intention of serving as their permanent judge.
And what I'm concerned about, and I think it's already been covered, by the chairman and Mr. Connell, whoever was speaking, but bottom line is, if there's any compensation to any judge, I want to know how much the compensation is, because I would be very uncomfortable voting for that if there was going to be compensation and it's blank.
At first, I've heard that he's not getting any compensation, but if Bethune has to fill it out first, Mr. Jones, and send it back to us, they'd have to execute it first. And so if they're not going to pay him, they would insert none in there. No compensation.
But what if they put,
Well, if they put the compensation in there, they're going to have to pay us that for him to serve.
Right.
If
We
they don't
wouldn't
pay
pay
us,
it.
he wouldn't serve.
The county wouldn't pay any of that.
And we wouldn't pay him. If they're going to pay him, and they don't pay him, then he couldn't serve under the agreement.
I understand, but whether it's their money or our money, it's all tax money. And I was just wanting to make sure that we have some clarification that the dollar amount, if it does change, is there.
It's going to go to them first.
This doesn't require a vote tonight, right?
I
Shouldn't
think
be
they
voting
want,
on this
Yeah,
tonight.
it does require a vote.
well, yes.
In order to get to them so they can act upon it in a timely fashion, we would need to vote on it tonight.
Why didn't they act on it first and send it to us?
I don't think they have staff to draw this up.
I mean, I want to help Bethune, don't get me wrong, I'm not against it, I'm just trying to, I need some
This is
clarification.
the process, Ms. Jones, we were told that we needed to follow.
Who told you that?
Coming from the magistrate in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, this is a form.
Is she going to pay it? The Magistrate of Supreme Court?
Mr. Jones, I
love you
produced
too,
the
Mr.
agreement,
Rose.
but the agreement is a form. It's a form.
I understand.
mean, and we've done this before.
I-
I mean, we've had other agreements now in the past with the city of Camden. In the past, the city of Camden has paid, and we put the number in there, but the theory is that he can't serve in dual capacity without our permission. I'm talking about Judge Davis. And if he's going to be compensated, compensation has to go through us. So they have to send us some money. That's what's going on here. But if he's going to do it free, the county, of course, the county doesn't have to let him do it.
But it doesn't say free up there.
Not yet.
I understand, but we're going to vote now, but not yet.
Yeah.
It essentially does say free because there's no money in there. So essentially, we're voting with nothing tonight. When it comes back to us, it will either have a value in there or it won't have a value.
That's
essentially.
correct.
So
yeah.
I don't think there's any harm in moving it forward tonight.
Sure.
Just Jimmy, to your point, is there any county money in that?
Well, County or Bethune, because
Yeah,
it's
it's the
all
city of-
taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah,
Whether it's
absolutely.
the town of Bethune's money or ours. I'm just saying that I understand what my colleague said, Mr. Gardner. I have no problems with what he said. It's just I'm looking at it at a different angle, that we're voting with a blank sum up there. But we're saying there's not going to be any money, but yet we're asked to vote where it says the county sum of the money blank per month.
Let's see. Well, let me ask you this.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm following exactly what you say, and I appreciate the point, but the city of Bethune would need to also vote on this.
Town of Bethune.
The motion can be amended to provide that Town of Bethune agreed to pay Kershaw County the sum of no compensation. You can just insert
That would make me
no
feel better.
compensation.
I would feel better about it.
Well, you can do that. Just make a motion to amend the motion to insert no compensation.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Connell.
So I think it's manifestly unfair to have someone perform work without compensation. I was just curious if negotiations were still going on. Essentially, as I read it, the vote tonight is either he's agreed to just step in and help him out and do him a solid by serving as a magistrate or a municipal type judge for a period of time until they find a full-time replacement, or they're going to pay him a little bit based on the time. I don't know. It sounds like nobody's spoken with the judge yet.
I have.
To see, oh, well,
Yeah,
maybe you can,
everybody
can mention it, but if he's gone up and assessed what he'd actually have to do up there, I don't know if he's quantified what it would be at this point.
It's your first. He's trying to do him a solid, get replacement as quick as possible, and then he can do his job back down here in the county seat. And that's why the verbal agreement was zero compensation
Yeah,
from
well,
both parties, because I
if he's
talked
okay
to
with that
county
and you're-
council too.
I'm sorry, if he's okay with that and you're certain, I
I'm
don't think we need
positive.
to get hung up on it, but to move it forward, I'm fine making the
That
amendment.
was his conversation with me, was he didn't intend to have any compensation
Right.
for doing it for them.
But that's not what we're voting on.
Well, you can make the amendment and put no compensation.
Okay, I would so move, make an amendment for no compensation.
Very good. We have a motion to amend. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Brazel. Any discussion?
Is there a difference between no compensation and blank? Mr. Attorney? What's the definition of is?
Explain to him, explain to my
If
colleague,
you want to clarify.
explain to my colleague what he's missing.
Well, you can just put no compensation. Otherwise, Bethune could add some figure in there and send it back.
I mean, town of Bethune, they don't even levy taxes. This is local government fund money anyway if they're going to give us anything, so, which, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor of Mr. Jones' amendment signify by raising your hand. We have
Whatever.
7. All right. And with that, let's now move to the basic motion, which is to vote on this. Mr. Jones, you restate your amendment, and then we'll move to the basic.
We just voted on the amendment.
No, we voted on the amendment to the motion. Would you restate your amendment?
There would be no compensation.
Okay, so now we move to the final vote. All those in favor of the motion as amended?
Can you restate? Oh, God.
It's just what you just
I
said.
know, but you wanted to hear my.
Let's go back to millage. That was easy.
Oh, come on.
You wanted to hear my repeat. I want to hear the repeat of the original motion.
Yeah, I really got a place to go tonight called work.
I'll restate it if you want.
Okay, restate it.
Okay, so essentially the motion was to approve the agreement before council right now to have Judge Davis serve Bethune based on a mutual agreement. Mr. Jones made a motion under paragraph 2, if my vision serves me, to have no compensation listed past the $. Fair enough? And it looks like the motion passed, and now we're going to vote on that as
Thank you,
amended.
Recorder.
Thank you. And with that, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and let's get that up to Bethune with that amendment. All right, very good. With that, we move now to number 2, which is a grievance committee appointment. It's at page 103. It's on the screen, and it's also at tab Juliet. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chair, members of council, I present to you tonight my recommendations for service on the Employee Grievance Committee. The Employee Grievance Committee is a creation of the county as part of our employee personnel policies. In the event that a disciplinary action is taken, county employees have the right to a grievance. When that happens, this committee is called into session, and they hear the grievance, and then they make recommendations to myself as far as what they believe the outcome should be. You see in front of you the remaining terms of the 3, and then we've added 4 new recommendations to the council that cover a wide variety of the county departments.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Gardner, a second from Mr. Tucker. A discussion?
I trust Vic.
No discussion. We move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mary. I appreciate your hard work in putting this one together, and you're going to have fun next time. We move now to council briefing, starting with you, Russell, please.
Yeah, there is one topic that I'd like to bring up that I have worked on for over a year now. And I'd like for all my fellow councilmen to take note. I have been trying to figure out, and with the help of others, Danny has been a big help, trying to figure out who owns the boat ramp on the Watery River. And it seems to me that, Mr. DeBose, please keep me straight here. It's sitting on a DOT right-of-way. And we installed it with some money from the state and some help from DNR. Does that sound about right?
I think we got DNR money through the state to pay for the boat ramp, yes.
Okay.
And the dock.
We've had some talks and some meetings about the floating dock. The floating dock has been dangerous, and there've been people swept underneath it. There've been boat trailers hung underneath it. I have tried, I feel like I have beat my head against a wall trying to get it removed for the safety of the community. Now, what I'm calling and asking everyone at this table to do, and all that are involved, is please support me in this effort to get this floating dock removed. And hopefully, as things happen in the park, and now note that the park is separate from the ramp, although they're side by side. I'm advocating for a larger boat ramp parking area for the citizens of Kershaw County and our visitors. I have been in contact with senators. I have been in contact with representatives. I have talked to some of the higher up officials with DNR, and it's been like a game of volleyball. The ball's it's in the county's court, it's in the state's court. Well, we got to talk to DNR, and y'all, I need some help. There's going to be injury. There's going to be issues, and I want to solve the problem. I don't want to cause an uproar or a fuss or any of that. My suggestion is that we remove the floating dock, and that in due time, it could potentially be replaced upstream of the ramp, potentially another ramp installed and a larger parking area. It seems that there's plenty of property. We've just got to figure out if it falls within the easement, and if we can afford to allocate some of the money that we've been given from the federal government to improve that boat ramp. I think the citizens of Lugoff and Camden and all of Kershaw County and our visitors would appreciate a nicer boat ramp on the Wateree River. That is all I have to say, and I appreciate any support that I get from any of my fellow council members and senators alike, and also our state representatives and all of the administration here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Connell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brazel, on that topic, the folks I've heard from are interested in having it on the other side to account for the current. They still like it, just want to have it on the other side, but it is a safety issue.
Correct.
It is. Two things to bring up. One of them was mentioned earlier. You've got the Land Jam concert coming up in Lugoff. This is the second year that it's happening, and it looks like it's growing again this year. That's going to be November 12th and 13th. The 12th, that evening, as I understand it, it's kind of a cool acoustic performance. And then 13th is the concert that will have bounce houses for kids and various other activities. Just a great community event. December 4th coming up, put that on your calendar, is the Catfish Stomp Parade in Elgin. It's a great Christmas parade. Cool name, great tradition. And there are so many other wonderful traditions in Kershaw County, in my view, centered around Jesus Christ, which is the reason for the season. As we get together for Thanksgiving and we get together for Christmas, I am so excited to get together with family and friends that I haven't seen or been with for a long time, break bread, and share great stories and fellowship with them. That's all I have to share, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, members of council, Mr. Chair. To my colleague, Mr. Brazel, I'm with you 100%, 150% on that boat ramp. But however, I'm not sure what needs to be done. What I will say is that, Mr. Bose, do we own it or does the state own it?
The land belongs to DOT, Department of Transportation.
What belongs to us?
I'm not sure anything belongs to us, Mr. Jones. I think all the county did was facilitate the funds which were from the state. And I do think the county might have been the applicant for the permit.
Sure. Well, the thing of it is, Councilman Brazel's exactly right. I'll take it a step further. Someone's going to get killed. Someone's going to die if something isn't done. So we need to create a fuss or something because, and I'm so proud that my colleague brought that up because we both, I get hit with it a lot and I've banged my head up against the wall as well. I think what really threw me off was how absurd the state was when they came back and said it belonged to us. I don't think it belongs to us, but what I want, I'm willing to go ahead and do whatever we have to do to make it safe for the citizens of Kershaw County. Folks, someone's going to die if somebody doesn't do anything. So instead of us sending it around the world, arguing back and forth, playing ping pong, I agree with Mr. Brazel. Let's get something done. I don't know if it can be fixed where it's at. I don't know. Or it needs to be taken down. I don't know. But bottom line is somebody, and I'm with you, Russell, I'm with you. Somebody needs to do something. And I'm going to stay on this. And I think Mr. Brazel is going to stay on this. I've seen someone stuck up under that dock. And folks had to jump out and help them get out. A man's wife was under there. Okay. And so if you could, Mr. Carpenter, I would really appreciate it, along with Mr. Brazel, if you move as fast as possible to help resolve this issue in some way or another. Thank you so much. I have just a couple of quick things I want to address. I have with me 2 sheets of paper. And October 19th, paper 1 I'll refer to. And this is what I'm going to address first. And as this newspaper asked, and it asked a question, and what's going on with the hotel deal. And as I said, this was on October 19th, 2021. I thought that was a very good question. Chronicle Independent, the newspaper, had good reporting and had a good editorial about the boutique hotel extension of the purchase and inducement agreements. And I believe majority of members on this county council were downright giddy when I believe they were apparently hoodwinked and deceived by the boutique hotel people into giving over $2 million in tax breaks for the first time ever to a commercial business that's not even ready to proceed. We find out later. This is also coming from the newspaper. And of course, private business competes against private business. I also believe that this county council and the public were misled every step of the way. I don't think any member of this council would disagree with this based on what we were told that we had to do and what we did. Anyway, I got the floor, sir. This supposed project was done with a lack of transparency, in my opinion, or accurate information. I oppose the boutique hotel project every step of the way. And if you'll, even in the editorial, what's going on with the hotel deal? In the editorial. So if the newspaper doesn't know what's going on with it, I don't know how we can think we do. That's just my opinion. Now, the newspaper came out on what I call paper 2, October the 29th, their next edition. Have it right here. The boutique hotel people say they are entering the final reconstruction planning stage almost 3 years after I believe they were given the property by the city and other public money and given over $2 million in tax breaks. The announcement that the boutique hotel, after 3 years and lots of public money given away or incentives, is only now entering the final reconstruction planning stage. I personally believe that's like putting lipstick on a pig. The average politician and bureaucrat will fall for this hook, line, and sinker. I am not your average politician or servant, so I don't fall for putting lipstick on a pig, and that's what I call it. I don't like the idea of public money going into the private sector, competing, and this my belief and my philosophy. I would like the county administrator to see if the council can repeal the $2 million tax giveaway. Having said that, I would like a response on that, at least by the next county council meeting. I know we're meeting one meeting a month, and I realize December is here, and we always usually meet once a month during December. But folks, I'm going to tell you, even for half the year, I know it was proposed that we do a meeting for once a month for the whole year. Then council went ahead and said, well, no, we'll just do it for half the year. But folks, you get disconnected with 30 days. we get disengaged. I mean, we have so much we have to talk about, and yet there are issues that need to come up, and we've got 30 days. So we'll have 30 days from this county council meeting till the next. And I'm going to share this too with county council. My own wife said, "Why are you arguing about 2 meetings versus 1? Do you know how tough it is to live with you, Jimmy, on a council meeting day?" But still, I want 2. I want to go back to 2 meetings a month. I think it's what we've always, I know it's what we've always done. And I just don't like it. I don't think it's good for us up here. We were elected by the people. It's always been 2 times a month, the 2nd and 4th. And it needs to be that again. So I hope at the first of the year, I know I've talked to a couple of my colleagues that tend to agree that there may be some issues with this once a month because we are so disengaged. But anyway, I thank you for your time, members of county council, and Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Snodgrass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. Mr. Brazel, I'm with you, man. It's frustrating, and I get to a point where my philosophy is leaders lead. And what I've learned through other projects is if you let it, county will throw it over to state, and state will throw it back to us. And I think at some point, I'm all in favor of leaders lead. And I don't care whose boat ramp it is. We've spent a lot of time giving access to kayakers, which was warranted. But some duck hunters need some good access to our great treasure, the watery river. And I think I think it's our responsibility. We're the one that locks the gate if there's danger. I know DNR tells us to do it, but it's our staff that goes out there and locks the gate. So we do have some responsibility. So I'm certainly with you on that. And I wanted to also, along those lines, just want to highlight the fact that last couple of years, well, probably little over a year, I've been meeting with some citizens who are concerned about Goodall State Park, and we began conversations with the state, from PRT director all the way to the lead manager for Goodall. And as we begin to put projects in front of them, things that as citizens we wanted to see the state do and to take responsibility of their park that was given to them by us back in 1976 or so. And we've seen some improvements out there. But one of the ideas that came to light was the formation of a nonprofit that would be called Friends of Goodall. And there's a Facebook page that has been created by one of the members that I've been meeting with. And this is a group that I would encourage you to be a part of. If you have any memories of Goodall State Park, and if you have any passion and desire to see it continue to be a great treasure of Kershaw County, would you join that group? And it'll be a way for you to get information on how we can come alongside the state in ensuring that Goodall State Park is a place for all of us to continue to make memories. And so I want to thank the staff as well as others who have been kind of part of those conversations for the last year or so. And also I want to give a shout out to, I see Director Cato back there. On a last minute, I had to get a speaker for a Kiwanis meeting 2 weeks ago, and they gave me Cato's name, and I called him and said, "Hey man, can you come do this?" He was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he gave a great presentation about our detention center, and and we all know this, but there are more things going on out there than just people being locked up. There are efforts to do rehab and efforts for people to get the tools so they don't make the same decision they made to get them there to begin with. So, Cato, I just want to say thank you so much for bailing me out that day, and did a good job. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say a couple of thank yous. I want to thank my colleagues up here on this dais, Mr. Carpenter and staff, Miss Mary, during my bereavement time with my family. Yeah. I hear you, Ben, when you're talking about the holidays, and I and my family will spend one a little different this year as others who have lost loved ones throughout this year, and especially as a parent. It's not the way that it usually goes. But I want to say thank you to the citizens, the sheriff, and all of you who reached out via text, phone calls, cards, flowers. It meant so much. And the ones that attend the funeral, like my big guy here and Miss Mary and Vic and others. It meant a lot to turn your head as you're pouring in tears to see friendly faces and people that love you and care. I say that because this will be a process for me. I'm going to deal with it in the best way I know how. God makes no mistakes. I'm a firm believer in that. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. Most of all, I appreciate you giving me my space. I just needed time to just deal with me and my way of dealing with things. So with that, thanks again. I want to also thank you for your hard work in this redistricting process, Mr. Joe Opperman as well. There were a lot of folks that's very concerned on how this goes. And, this is going to be done for the next 10 years, the next decade, so we need to get it right. We need to be within the laws and the guidelines so we're not sued and that we're doing the right thing by the citizens of Kershaw County. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for doing that and then allowing me to come in on the 9th hour, because I actually have not seen any of these maps until yesterday. I was one of the first ones, the chairman and I, to talk to Mr. Arthurman, but we didn't have maps at that time. So by the time the maps were produced, I wasn't available between my schedule and tragedy and my family. So I just want to say thanks. And I love all you guys, and I'm looking forward to continue to serve and get things done. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gardner.
Yes, most of you were I want to recognize the North Central High School volleyball team. They played for a state championship this past Saturday. They came up a little short, went all five sets. They lost by a close margin, but they had a tremendous year. Andy Johnson and his staff and his team, they need to be congratulated. And so that's what I'm doing right now. So congratulations to them. I think it's the first time they played for a state championship in quite a while. So, but they're to be congratulated for being there. Concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker, you're an example of grace under pressure and faith in God. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Opperman, Sheriff, Mr. Jordan, thanks for hanging around. Cato, thank you for being here. I think we all draw from you being here. And I would say to Amanda and Mr. Floyd Bracey, Joe is in the back. Let's thank him on the way out. If you don't want to talk to him, please at least say thank you. Joe, thanks for all you did. Veterans Day, thank you. Thank you, Tom. That's right. And we saw you yesterday in celebration and in your Vietnam uniform. Here you are again. And then the real Veterans Day is on the 11th. And tomorrow is Marine Corps birthday. Thank a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Coast Guardsman if you see them. Active, Guard, and Reserve.
Navy.
Navy. I forgot the Navy. That's right. We're going to beat Navy in the next 2 weeks. And football, but we'll always want the best Navy in the world working for us.
I'm going to say, without the Navy, the Marines doesn't exist.
Well, without the Marines, the Navy is just another Coast Guard. Oh, sorry about that.
We're hitting below the belt now.
And I've got a cousin in the Coast Guard as a commander right now, commanding a frigate. Clean Community, thank you. Tom, you're here. Please convey back to the members of the Clean Community Commission, Wanda, the whole team, for a great job this past stormy 6 November. And remember that we even had football teams and wrestlers out there and so on. I think the word is getting out about cleaning this community. I would also like to say we got a lot going on in this county. It's a celebratory time with holidays, has been mentioned already, Land Jam, rodeos, Revolutionary War, Potter Park, all these parades. Let's enjoy our county, but let's keep it safe. With that, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, a few things for you. First of all, I will pick up with what several of you all have already alluded to about one of our employees, Director Cato. You see Director Cato receiving an award and a recognition of the Public Safety Chaplaincy's Post, the 2021 Centurion Award. The chaplaincy was able to present a great friend, our highest award this weekend at our conference. Director Cato is the director of the Kershaw County Detention Center, as well as being the first vice president of the South Carolina Jail Administrators Association. Since Director Cato started overseeing the operations of the facility, he has modernized it to a level like no other, such as adding a drone UAV program as well as other innovative programs. Director Cato truly embodies what our Centurion Award is all about. He's a true Christian leader in the field of public safety, and we are so grateful to call him our friend and brother.
Amen.
Our quality shines through, sir.
Yes, sir.
Also coming up, has been alluded to, our Tinsel Trail, the Kershaw County Tinsel Trail at the Wateree River Veterans Park, opening from November 30th to January the 3rd. This year, there will be 50 decorated Christmas trees that have been sponsored by the community. That'll be spread all the way along the trail itself. There'll be light displays, the river will be illuminated, and there'll be bonfires for s'mores as well out there. It'll again start November 30th, and they will run it every night. A little later than the normal winter hours, so I think they're running it till 9 o'clock at night those nights. If you have any more information, the phone number, Parks and Rec, 425-6009. And, Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Would you mention this document?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, sir. You have in your packets, members of council, the Vision 2030 plan. The Vision 2030 is the 5-year update of it. The core group, citizen volunteers, has spent the last several months. They've hosted numerous meetings throughout the community. Interest groups pulled together people to share their thoughts and their vision of where they would like to see us going as a community. You have in front of you that draft document. Already this draft document has been presented and approved by our school board, by the town of Camden, by the town of Bethune, by the town of Elgin, by the Cassett Water Authority, and the Chamber of Commerce. And I believe that it is up for consideration by Lugoff
Fire Department next week.
Yes, sir. And so, members of council, you have this in your packet for your review and consideration for next agenda. Yes, sir.
Mr. Carter, quick question, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Would you also look into our live streaming? It seems there's something going on where people cannot comment. It's being shut down or something. I'm not exactly sure, but I've received some text on it tonight. And if you'd look into that to make sure, because we do allow comments, correct?
It depends on what platform it's on. Some platforms don't do comments, some do. I'll have to check to see. I don't know.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything further?
That's my report, sir.
Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, I don't have anything.
Thank you.
I believe you had something to hand out tonight.
I do. I'll hand it out after the meeting.
Very good. Okay, gentlemen.
I have a
would you just-
handout for everybody, yes.
Gentlemen, if you just check in with the attorney, he has a handout for each of you, and I'd like to have one too. With that, let's entertain a motion to close.
Motion to adjourn.
Second from Mr. Connell. You're quick again, Ben. Any discussion? Our next meeting is 14 December. With that, let's vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous. Mary, close us out. Thank you.